Hello, everyone. This is Amy. Welcome to Base and Boundaries, the absolute podcast that is going to be talking about all things mental health and music. So if that's your kind of thing, stick around for the next drop. Hello, everyone. It's Amy. I hope you're all doing well. Today's wonderful podcast is going to be quite a emotive one, actually, and just talk a little bit about what's going to be going down. It's all going to be to do with all things. If you feel like you are too much, if you feel like every element of your life has been judged and you feel like you cannot physically be yourself, this is the podcast that is absolutely for you. Now, I'm going to record this in segments because as it stands, work is being done outside on my house and I've had to find a quiet moment to do said podcast. Now, this is the only real time I'm going to have that's quiet. If you do hear a humming in the background, it is a digger. I'm not going to lie. In the words of Blippi, it's an excavator. It's one of those things. I can't control it. I have no control over it. However, I have kind of put the voice kind of echo thing on it. So fingers crossed it works. So I'm going to play this back and pray that it works. So let's go. Okie dokie, so I have played it back. It doesn't sound too bad, so we're just going to go with the flow anyway, because I would like to push a podcast out. And I have heard many sort of like video blogs and stuff like that where you've got fire engines going past and stuff like that. So we understand here that life happens. So yeah, today's podcast is essentially going to be all about how to manage when you don't feel like yourself or you feel like you're too much and you are in your head, you are overthinking, you feel like everybody hates you. How do you deal with that? Because this has happened to me very recently, actually. And I honestly, and this is me being completely honest with you, when you have ADHD, you're not always taken seriously. And this is something that I've even had on a therapy session today. We are doing high intensity CBT therapy, and with high intensity CBT you are effectively getting your behaviors and the kind of like allowing yourself to, like in my case anyway, allowing myself to be purposely uncomfortable so that I can learn new habits and new behaviors instead of constantly going to the default, which is my comfort zone. So back in the day, my comfort zones would have been unhealthy behaviors. So I'm in, I don't know if anyone knows, but I'm actually in recovery for a food addiction and actually became an eating disorder, a binge eating. And I'm very proud to say that I don't do that anymore. And there are challenges around that. You have to eat to survive, right? And when you are stressed out, my default is to get the chocolate, get the cake, and now I don't do that. And there are ways that I cope with that, but now I hear it sometimes trying to come back in. But there have been things that have been said to me very recently that have had a massive impact on me. And it's almost like reversed some of the behaviors that I have had. So, for instance, one of the behaviors that was said to me, it's usually always emotional. I always get like sort of emotional things said to me that set me off effectively. And one of the first ones was actually, I'm too much. And that my brain works too quickly, or because it just does. And I can't say hi, I'm gonna just flick a switch and the ADHD gets shut off. And I know a lot of people say they have it, but I actually have medical documentation. I'm diagnosed with it. I also have something called complex post-traumatic stress disorder, which is like sort of childhood trauma. And I believe that the ADHD came from that. I am in firm belief that I wasn't born like this. I believe that it was environmental. And we can go into a whole topic about that if you want to. Just let me know, where I believe in environmental factors can cause these issues to happen. Do I believe you can be cured of it? I don't know. I think trauma is a big one, isn't it? Where it's going to take unpicking, and it's almost like if you remember Shrek with the onion theory, like the people have layers, but that's effectively it, isn't it? Like you are a layered person, and everybody's different, and everyone has that ability to to heal, but I don't believe that ADHD is one that is going to heal straight away. I think it's just something I've got to put up with. So how does one manage when you don't feel good enough, or whether you feel been told that you're too much? Um, Honestly, the way that I do it is I flip it on its head. I'm not too much for people that love me unconditionally. I am conditionally loved by people that should love me unconditionally, and I hate that. I've always argued that I will always be try and be the best mother that I can be, but I don't want to. My upbringing was very much, it was very much normal, but my biological father was not in my life, and for reasons I do not know. And as a result of that, my dad then passed away in 2016. So I didn't get much of a relationship with him. I did get his nose, though. I did get his nose. And I do look like my dad. And one time, a family member in an argument with myself, because I was putting down a boundary, said, well, you're just like your father in every way. And it's not a good way. And and when I got told that was so deeply rooted, I had a really tough time with that. So then I spoke to my dad's family, and I actually sat with my dad's family, and I said, tell me about him. And he actually sounded like a pretty chill guy. I actually really liked the sound of him, and I do believe that I take a lot of those qualities from him, and I'm not ashamed of who I am. And I think that's the thing. You do get it where you are so self-aware that you are aware when you're messing up. You are aware when these things are happening. But listen, when you have such a good self-awareness, but then someone comes along with a trigger point and they plant that seed, you start to doubt yourself. You start to feel like maybe everything I feel about myself is wrong. And then you kind of go, well, listen, when you've had and been around bad people that are just as affected by their own insecurities, by their own insanity, by their own this, by their own that, they will project that onto you. We all project. I do it. I see people that I work with and I get very triggered by how they work. And actually some of it is actually a reflection of what I don't want to be. So you have to kind of go with that. And sometimes we mirror our insecurities outwards. So how do we deal with this? Well, we have to be aware that we are not perfect. And that's the first kind of the most crucial part of it, recovery, is I am not perfect. However, I am happy with who I am, but I am open to being able to learn new things and to manage my emotions and manage my trauma and manage those things. I don't call trauma my trauma. I refuse to. It is a chain of historical events that happened to me. I was there. However, it does not define who I am. Because if you go, well, my trauma, I carry this, you will drive yourself insane. You genuinely will. You will drive yourself crazy, because I drove myself crazy. An ex, tried to end my life, and I'm so over it. And some people don't, and that's okay. You're at your own pace. And I don't want anybody to take this and go, oh, well, she's judging people and she's judging my trauma and stuff like. Not at all. I am telling you from experience how I have dealt with these chain of events that's happened to me. I've met the wrong partner. I have had a failed marriage. I have done these things. I have, lived in a house and had to move because of, landlords selling the house. I've lost everything. I ran away from home at 17. I had to do these things, and I'm glad that I did, because it's made me the person I am now, which is I've gone through experiences that do not define my existence. However, people will judge me on them. I don't care. You can do what you want. But I am not my past, and I am not my trauma. They are just they are a chain of events, and I have my own brain fabricates them sometimes. I'll give you a prime example where I convinced myself not too long ago that all my friends hated me. So I didn't talk to any of them for like a week, and like, what's going on? Like, we all hate me. No, we don't. it turns out that was on me. And I went, yeah, that was a bit of a move on me. So sometimes our brain fabricates these things to protect ourselves, but ultimately we don't ever have to sit in the past. We have to deal with the now. And so that was a big thing that I learned from therapy. The past happened. There's nothing you can do unless you're Doctor Who. Go back in a time machine and change the course of the past. I would do it all over again, genuinely, because I wouldn't be where I am now. Okay. So you have that trauma, right? So that trauma happened, and I hate that it happened to you, and I love you that you were able to acknowledge that these things have happened, yeah? But it's done. Close the door. Look at what's going on now. How are you feeling now? What's going on with you? Are you okay? Are you sitting in the past? Because you're missing out on opportunities for present, which then would lead to a better future. So that's my mindset. So how do I go about that? So at the moment, I'm having high intensity CBT therapy by a therapist who's absolutely fabulous, by the way, and actually made me feel accepted and said, you've gone through this time and I'm sorry that happened to you because, and these things happen because, and your behavior happened because, and then you kind of deal with them now. Like, how am I coping now? Instead of coping with past experiences, what am I going to do now? So there's a thing that I encourage you to look at. I'm just going to see if I can try and get it up on my screen so I can read it to you. It's called, here we go, the cross-sectional formulation. So you've got your situation and trigger. So for instance, for me, this is something that a family member said. So what are the thoughts of that? I'm not good enough. I am a horrible person. I am just like my father. I am this. I am that. My dad must have been a bad person. What's the behavior? Well, my behavior used to be binge eating. Now it's like I cry about it. Bodily sensations. When I cry, I feel pain. And how am I feeling emotionally? And emotionally being, you know, I say I cry a lot. I feel like this. I feel like that. So when you have it in black and white in front of you, you then look at it and go, well, how can I change those emotions from binge? Like, how can I change that behavior from binge eating or being angry or being aggressive or being this or being that to a proper coping strategy? So I write in my book, I write a diary, I do my podcast, I get it out on TikTok. I do those things to help you, but also to help me so that I'm aware and looking at my growth. I looked at videos from me from like 2 years ago and I'm like, wow, I have grown so much in that, you know, that short time frame. So I can't avoid the noise now despite trying. I don't think it's going to be much of an issue, but I'm just going to drop this podcast anyway because I know that it's going to help somebody. But listen, here's the thing. My word, the people that make these opinions of you, it doesn't make it true. An opinion is an opinion. It is exactly that. It doesn't make it factual. So just because somebody said to me today, someone actually said to me today, and I quote, no one would ever take you on with you and your kids. You would be stupid to think that. I think you find that's a lie. And actually, to say that you're supposed to be one of my biggest supporters and you're not doing that, that's a bit of a low blow. So actually, having a family member saying that to me has made me realise how much I don't want to be like them. And it's driving me to do better. So actually, some of the negative things that people say to you, it's actually going to turn it on its axis and make it into a positive. Now, I'm going to knock it on the head because that drilling out there is getting bigger and louder and worse. And I wanted to get this podcast out today for you. So it's here, it's ready. And, you know, you get your weekly dose of what Amy's got to say. Join me because I think it's next week, I'm going to have Jeannie B ASMR on, who's a very dear friend of mine. I've got Amy B, who's also going to be on soon. And another lady who is going to be on at the end of the month called Tracy. And I'm doing self-defense classes with her at the moment. I'm going to tell you all about that. And I'm going to get Tracy to tell you all about the amazing work that she does. But don't forget, if you are all things music and mental health and you want to get on board with me, give me an email at baseandboundaries@gmail.com. or follow me on TikTok or on Instagram. And before I go, I want to drop down three tunes for you this week that I've been listening to on the good old Spotify. So number one, Nobody Like You by Genetics, which is absolutely fabulous. Infrared by, I think it's pronounced Yossi, YUSSI or UC, and High on You by Delta Heavy. They're my three favourites this week from the drum and bass scene. So thank you all very, very much for watching. As always, love you all to bits, and I will see you in the next one. Take care. Bye.